Hey guys, welcome back to Critical African Thinkers. How is everyone doing today? So today I decided to have a show because I'm not home. I'm out of home. I'm in another city, and I sort of have some time in my hands, and I think I can just run a show for today. So today's show we're going to be talking about, an intersection between racism, stupidity, the red pill movement, the manosphere, and a couple of related things, right? Which I would term a mother load of bad ideas. I always like tackling bad ideas wherever I see them. Most of the time, when I see content like this, I don't bother paying attention to them. But I think that it's worth drawing attention to these things because there are a lot of people, there are a lot of young men who are going to be carried away, a lot of young men who are going to be deceived by these charlatans calling themselves, role models, alpha role models for young men, right? So I know that a lot of people, a lot of young men went through the red pill phase. I sort of went through that phase too. There was a time when I was just consuming a lot of red pill content. And for a while, it did make sense. It made some sense, right? Because it was kind of a counter to the overarching feminist narrative where men were to be blamed for everything. So, the men's right movement was trying to draw attention to men's issues, to try to draw attention to the problems, the society, the way men were being treated in society, at times like second class citizens, right? So we do know that the third wave feminism is a problem. Third wave feminists is a problem, and it seemed like the men's rights activists. It seems like the manosphere was going to be a counter to that, but it did turn out that this manosphere, or these guys in the manosphere who are supposed to be a bulwark against that, have not taken on the features of the so-called third wave feminists because a lot of them are very hyper feminine, they are immature, they are hyper emotional, they are driven by emotion rather than by logic. And I'm going to try and try to show this through one of the videos that I'm going to be reacting to in this stream today. And this video is from Fresh and Fit. I don't know, some people might know them, some people might not know them, but they are kind of one of the guys in the manosphere space today where they talk about things about relationship and all that. So about a year ago, to give some kind of background to what I'm going to be talking about today, about a year ago, they had a beef with Aba and Preach, another very big YouTubers, right, on YouTube. Those I like Aba and Preach because I think they are very balanced in their takes. They are nuanced. They are not a one-way street like these other buffons that I'm going to be talking about today. They're not a one-way street. Abba and Preach, they're actually very nuanced, and I like the way they bring balance to their conversation. So there was sort of some drama between Fresh and Fit and Abba and Preach. It dragged on for a while. The responses were mostly from Fresh and Fit. The responses were stupid, and after about a year, thinking that everything had gone away, everything had they decided to do a 2 hour stream where they just shit on Abba and Preach, call them all kinds of names, and then invoke certain racist stereotypes against them. Right. So when white people do certain racist things against black people, there's always a problem. There's an uproar. Of course, there should be. It's not good. Racism is never a good thing. But it seems as if some black people, when they have a beef with other black people, invoke those same racist stereotypes against your own fellow black man. So what kind of message is that sending? It's sending the kind of message it's sending is that probably there's some truth to the kind of stereotype about black people. So it doesn't make sense that you have a beef with another black man, and the best way you can express yourself to is by invoking racist tropes against them. It's crazy. So I'm just going to I'm going to play the video from Fresh and Fit and then react to it as we go. So let me just share my screen and play it so we can get to see. Yeah, so this is the video. All right, let's go.
Yo, Prince is like a. It looks like a monkey.
You should see him build momentum. What the?
Yo, every time this nigga got a problem with you.
Imagine them.
Yo, nigga looks like a monkey.
Preachers over there looking like McGilla Grill and Donkey Kong having a
Bro,
baby.
like, what's going on? Prince like uses his head.
So these bozos did a 2 hour live stream, of which a majority of it was shitting on other black men, calling them monkeys, that they look like monkeys, invoking. It's so stupid, right? It's so stupid. And the funny thing is that they got roasted in their own live stream, in the comment section of their own live stream. I'm going to be reading some interesting comments from this video itself later on. They got roasted by their own audience, knowing that it was a stupid thing. But the funny thing is, these guys have about 1.4 million subscribers and they get views in every show, meaning that there are up to 1.4 million stupid people on YouTube that are following these docs. That's a big problem. What value do they add? What value do they add to any conversation? I don't think I think I'm even done reacting to this video, right? Because there isn't much to show there. They were just being a bunch of asses. They were just being a bunch of asses, being a bunch of assholes, right? Invoking racial stereotypes against other black people. What value do these men actually bring to the table? They don't bring any value. They prey on the insecurities of young men who are having hard times, maybe forming sexual relationships, forming emotional relationships, forming connections with women. Yes, teenage years are awkward years. They are awkward periods. Many men went through it. They went through a period when they couldn't really talk to women. But you outgrow that thing. You become a man. You gain the skills. You gain mastery of those things, and you're no longer a child. So while these things might appeal to boys, it doesn't really appeal to men. But the funny thing is that there are a lot of men, I mean grown ass men, that follow these kids. I'll call them kids because there's really nothing cerebral in what they're doing. That follow these kids on YouTube. And the so-called red pill movement has become a very toxic space where it's just about bashing women. It's just about bashing women, using the same talking points that have no value. SKC, thank you for the support. Thank you for the super chats. I really, really appreciate that. They don't bring any value to the table. They just rehash, old talking points that doesn't mean anything. They are hyper emotional. Their stock in trade is to bring these pretty but very dumb girls onto their show and then just trash them. Not even in a good way. The best way they even trash these women is to insult them, denigrate them, and talk over them, constantly interrupting their guests. They just talk over them, and it's a shouting match. If I had continued playing that video, you would see there was nothing coherent. They kept talking on top of each other, and I'm wondering, how do people listen to this garbage? While trying to prepare for this show, I tried to listen to the 2 hour podcast that they did so I can get the full context of what really happened. I couldn't finish it because it was just a lot of brain rot. There was nothing there. So these men are childish, they are hyper emotional, they are hyper feminine. They call themselves alpha, they are alpha males, but they cannot put their emotion in check. They can't even be stoic. They have to come out and attack and say all those nonsense things. You use the same talking points. Men and women are not the same. Men are built to be polygamous. Women are built to be this. Okay, so what? So what? Does that justify cheating by men? Right? Now they want to. There was a very good point that Destiny made about things like this. He said something. He said, these alpha males going out there telling every young man that you can be this, you can be that. Well, that's not true. Not everybody can be that. Not everybody, not every male can be that quote and unquote alpha male who has all the confidence, who has all the money, who has all the women and all that. So what does it do to these young men that fail to meet up to that? They now see themselves as a failure. They see themselves as the problem. There is no problem with trying to constantly improve yourself. There is no problem with trying to better yourself, trying to get more skills to be a better human. Absolutely no problem. But to tell young men that the goal, ultimately, the ultimate goal in life is to have so much wealth where you can flaunt and do whatever you want. I mean, like the Tates who kept on bragging on, the bragging on the internet that they can go anywhere, they can buy their way out of anything. Talk is cheap. And then the Romanian government put them in a put them on arrest for months without charge. All their talking was for nothing. They said they could literally buy their way out of Romania. In fact, they are still under arrest. So are these the kind of people you want to? They give you a false perception of reality. And if young men are not careful, they will fall into this trap. They will start resenting women. So in essence, the red pill movement is like a breeding ground for misogyny. It's a breeding ground for all sorts of deviancy in society. These young men, they will keep asking, they will say, what does a woman bring to the table? Now, very contradictory statement. They will say, aside from your looks and sex, what does a woman bring to the table, right? So definitely they want the woman. But first of all, any man asking that question is a very stupid person to be. Anybody asking, the opposite, the person you're in a relationship with, what are you bringing to the table you're very stupid. Because one, it should be apparent to you what the other person is bringing to that relationship in the first place. If not, what the hell are you doing with the person? Secondly, if you don't even know what they are bringing, it's secondly, if you don't know what they are bringing, it means that you're not perceptive enough. I don't think there's any man who's been with a good woman that does not know the impact of that woman in his life, how she rearranges and reorganizes things, how she changes things. A woman makes you better. I mean, literally makes you better if you meet a good woman. So it's either you're not picking the right woman or you're not perceptive enough to see what this woman is doing, what she's bringing to the table. So what are you saying? What table? So you as a man, what are you bringing to the table aside from money for most of these guys? And they are broke anyway. What value? They don't bring leadership. They don't bring anything. They just think that it's their wealth, is the money. That's all. And then notice the contradiction. When they find a woman that is capable, when they find a woman that is self-reliant, that is self-assured, if you find a woman that is making money on their own, what do they say? They say, well, I don't need your money. I don't need that kind of woman. I just need a woman that will be pretty, submissive, obey me. So they just want like another furniture. So what exactly do these red pill idiots want? They tell you that they want a woman who brings much more than beauty and her looks. And when such a woman comes along, they say, no, we don't need those things. What we need is just your beauty and your looks. Very self-contradictory. Doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't make any sense that these people have such huge following. But it does seem that stupidity is, it's very popular. Stupidity is very, very popular. So how do you deal with idiots like this? They come to social media, they're just preying on the weaknesses of they are not offering any value. They're not telling these young men, this is the reality of life. How can you be a better person? How can you be a fulfilling person? How can you live a life that is much more fulfilling, much more engaging? How can you contribute to society? No, the thing is, how can you get women, right? And then you say, oh, I can't marry a loose woman. Yet you're going about defiling women. You can't marry a loose woman. So who's going to marry the ones that you're defiling, the ones that you're messing around, the ones that you're rubbishing? Who's going to marry them? On the one hand, you say that women are becoming loose, sex is too free, everything is blah, 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 blah. You make up all this moral outrage about the sexuality of women. On the other hand, you are the one patronizing them. You are the ones that want such women, you want such cheap women. You're the one that is trying to exchange sex for certain favors. Because I kind of learned that for some of those girls that come on their show, the precondition for coming on the show is that there has to be some sex involved. So what are you doing? You keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, right? So I'll put the link in the chats. If you want to call in and let's have a conversation, Stanley can call in, SKC you can call in. Let's talk, because these guys are really, 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 they're really annoying and they're stupid, and people are just I can't I can't imagine how anybody buys their bullshit. I mean, I like I said, I listen to some red pill content. I listen to the um that video by Casey. I've forgotten the name. I've forgotten the name of but that was a very good documentary anyway. I listened to that documentary. I was listening to some red pill content for a while, but at a certain point, what you see is that they draw you in with some very commonsensical things, and then they start introducing the rubbish. They start introducing the trash. So they will say some very basic things that everybody would naturally agree with. Yes. And I'm going to be probably this weekend, I'm going to be doing a show again about Just Pearly Things, who is like the queen of the, you know, red pill, stupid gang and all that. For a while, I was watching her content. Okay, she does make sense here and there. She got exposed when she went to a campus. She went to a college campus to do all those Stevie Crowder type of change my mind, and she met with one Jewish student. He totally demolished her. In fact, I saw her deflate right in front of my eyes. I was like, wow. So this girl is this shallow. She didn't even know what she was talking about, apart from the talking points, the very shallow talking points that she says. She did not know what she was talking about. So these people, they don't know what they're talking about. They're just about bashing women. They're just about, you know, I don't know. Stanley, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Charles. How you doing?
I'm fine. I'm out of home, so I think I'm free to do some live streams. So I decided to talk on about this today. So what do you think?
Um, you know what? I'm aware of Aba and Preach and all that stuff, but I've seen clips, but I don't follow them. But I think the most interesting thing you said, and it's not your topic, but I like you that you brought up stoicism. Essentially, you look bored. um, I your point about stoicism, I like it. I think it's just young kids. They're young. They don't know. Um, and I was like that too. Before I got married. Um, you, your points about, you know, you don't know the value of a woman maybe until you marry her. And you make a decent argument about you actually do need to date, or whatever the process is, to kind of know that it's the right person. There's no substitute for hard work, and getting to know a woman is hard. Not the hardest of work, but you take it seriously.
True, true.
So I'll stop being an old man.
All right, SKC, welcome to the conversation, and thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's no problem at all. I enjoy your commentary on a variety of subjects, and also some of the people that you bring up, like Stanley. Uh, I think this is one of these interesting takes where Stanley and I absolutely agree. I mean, uh, I was talking on a show earlier, and I don't want to I don't want to straw man the guy because it's not what he was saying. But um, what I find in a lot of those spaces is how there's a lot of oversimplification when it comes to relationships and broad strokes when describing um, archetypes of men and women. They all fall into these neatly group categories, alpha, beta, whatever else stuff that they want to throw in there, as if human beings are not these extremely complex beings with a wide variety of opinions on and backgrounds on a variety of subjects and how environments affect people. And the other part is that that I don't think that they take into consideration are how many people that really don't engage with social media. I mean, there are people who lead extremely busy lives that they just don't have time for it. I give you an example. Um, my son does a lot of well, both of them, but my oldest boy, he does a lot of archery. He's in a lot of other programs. Um, and his mom is a tiger mom, so she's on top of him all the time about academics and so forth. He can only have so much screen time, um, and a lot of his friends are the same way. So they really don't get that type of information coming to them. And but the way that these guys, these relationship guru guys, explain it is if you know all men think the same, all women think the same. Uh, they're gonna be affected by um, the same things that occur in pop media and so forth. It's just like I said. I think you hit it on the nose when you stated it. It's it's quite immature at some points, but because you have a large group of people who perhaps have grown up in broken household structures, they can resonate with it a bit more.
Mm. But it's very saddening and heartbreaking that that young men are looking to these guys for as role models, right? And any person who is perceptive, you just have to watch their videos maybe twice or three times to catch on what exactly is going on there, right? But the fact that people keep coming back to such shows, people keep engaging with them, people even think that there is some sort of value to what they're doing. And I have no problem with very teenagers, they are immature. I mean, what I used to think as a teenager is not what I think now. What I used to think about women as a teenager is not what I think now because I'm much more mature human being. I've gone through some experiences in life that would change my perception of things, right? But you find some like grown ass men, some grown ass men still think it's okay to be this childish. Still think it's life is all about how many women you can bed, right? Still think it's life is all about getting the pretty woman and the submissive woman. It's crazy. It's really really crazy to me.
Something that I've noticed. I don't watch the show. I've seen clips and pieces of this and that, and it's like anything else. You get it. You bring on the quote unquote bimbo archetype that the women don't really know anything, and then then they set up and they kind of try to psychoanalyze them and all that stuff. Okay. Um, aren't aren't like one of those or two, like they're not from the United States. I think they're like
Mm.
um they're from somewhere else.
Those guys, the fresh and fit guys.
Yeah, I don't think they're. I don't think that they're um, e- I don't think that they're from the United States, or at least their parents are not.
So do
I
you think
doubt. I
that
doubt
has an
that would.
effect in what they're doing?
Yeah, I think part of it is like entertainment grift, and they
Yep.
understand that the culture uh will allow them to do that. But I doubt that they would ever have people from their parents' culture come on their show
Hmm.
and then them express those same views.
Hmm. I see what you're saying.
And I'm
So
pretty sure that if they talk to
Oh,
their parents, they're telling their parents, well, this is just entertainment. It's just such, 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 you know.
oh, SKC, I love you. You, this is the first time there's not anything that you have said that I disagree with.
Yeah, Stanley,
Um,
I
wow,
think
this
we're
must be a good
agreeing.
year.
Huh?
I was gonna make you brought up Tiger Moms, and you are right on point. Um, and I don't want to get, kind of sidetracked, but Tiger Mom and the culture that would accept a Tiger Mom, or a culture that needs a Tiger Mom, that that kind of exploration of the need for a Tiger Mom is just rich. Um, so I'll stop there, but I think that, the Ballad of the Tiger Mom, I actually read the book when it came out. Amy Chua. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
Black people don't need Amy Chua to tell them how to be parents. Um, the single mom problem has nothing to do with her book. I I think that it works for Amy Chua, and I appreciate her advice, but the glorification of being that kind of mother, especially given the last, I don't know, I tend to follow her. Um, if you ever get bored, look up her career at Yale. She teaches at the law school.
hmm
Hell, for a time, they suspended her from teaching law students.
yeah. My wife is and family is very well aware of her. I just use it as a little short, kind of like playful thing
Well,
with
no,
her
I'm not.
because
I'm not.
she's
I'm
kind of
not fussing
strict with the
at you.
kids,
I
but yeah.
thought you made a major point in that, there are cultural differences. Especially in the United States where there are so many ways to be.
hmm
Um, Black mothers don't need to be tiger moms. They need to be good black mother. And
Yeah,
you're not gonna learn that from Amy Chua.
yeah,
And I'm not
I'll agree
fussing.
with you there because
I
it's
just
just a
thought you brought
different
up a great
cultural.
point.
Yeah, it's just a
Absolutely.
different cultural setup,
Right.
and it was like the over. I guess the bigger issue that I was stating was like the take for instance like Fresh and Fit.
Hmm.
I think I got some guys in the chat
Well,
that
no,
know
you
like
made a
conservative
huge point
and free
there.
zone Lou. I think that they know what where are guys. Let me know why Stanley talks. Where are Fresh and Fit? Where are they from? Because I know they're not from the states.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's an interesting point that you made that these guys, they, yeah, most likely from immigrant parents, right? And they come in here and they see, wow, we can actually make money off just saying these wild things that their parents might not even agree with, right? Because there is sort of a market for it. They will just, I don't know how people can do that. I honestly cannot say something that I truly do not believe.
Now I'm
I
going to take a stab in the dark. The market in quotes, is not an ADOS market.
Oh well, there are a lot of black people in those comment section. A lot of young black men.
Really?
Yeah, a lot. Most of their audience are young black men.
Well, I stand corrected.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
just, but I seriously, well, it says, Hood Service says Sudan, I think, but I seriously doubt that. Um, and they know they watch them more than I do, but I seriously doubt that they would have like traditionally Sudanese women on their panel and then,
nope, they won't.
engage in the same way.
They won't. They won't. And when they bring in a woman who is articulate, they try to bully her. When they bring a woman who knows what she's doing, maybe by mistake, they bring someone who can actually think and push back and question them. They try to bully her and they pull the she's being emotional card. While they are the ones being
Uh-huh.
emotional. The, let me just take some of the comments on their videos. So someone says extremely feminine and he doesn't even see it. So these are some comments on that video. So another person said, I don't understand how you guys could have possibly thought this was a win. Like I'm legitimately flabbergasted at this. Damn, Myron is so emotional. Got that feminine triggered vibe going on. Imagine outing yourselves as racists in the most oblivious way, obvious way possible. So they just got destroyed in the comment section of their own video. Another person they said this is what you call a narcissistic meltdown. So I think there was still some recognition by some of the people watching that video, that these guys were just they were just stupid. They're just being asshats, right? What? It's well, like Stanley says, the market is there for it. So it's a thing of demand and supply. If there is a even Kevin Samuels, as much as he was revered, I still thought Kevin Samuels, right? He used the same tactics that he accused the women of using. At times he wouldn't let them talk. At times he would project certain things onto them. Yes, he was insightful and most of the time, but there are times he was just as combative as the women who he called combative. So you are saying this person is there are certain traits in the other sex which you do not like, that you want to change, but you yourself you are using the same tactics. The hood to say, but black people can't be racist. Well, obviously not true. Black people can be racist, and as we see, black people can be racist against themselves. There was a time both guys said something that they don't date black women, like they don't, and they said it in the most denigrating manner possible. Then they were invited to the
Well,
podcast of
they don't think they're black.
they don't think they are black. So what do they think they are? They think they are white.
Not ADOS. They're um uh SKC said Sudanese. They're Africans, Ethiopians, Somalis that don't identify as black when they come to the States.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't
I mean,
know
I've
a
had
lot
these
about. Oh, go
conversations.
ahead, Stanley.
No, I'm sorry. I've had these conversations with Somalis and Ethiopians. Not um now it's a 50-50 mix, but um no, not all uh North Africans or northerly Africans north of the Sahel. No, they don't all identify as black when they come to the States.
So what would they identify as?
They're Sudanese or
Mm. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. From a lot of the Africans that I have engaged with, a lot of them will they will make it known what country
right.
they're from, rather than being associated
Even into the
with
second
American
generation.
blacks. Yeah, and I understand. I understand why.
Yeah,
It goes
I
with
understand.
the thought of there's just cultural differences. in traditions, in values, how you carry yourself, from um, how do you engage with people. It's a
Yeah, but
I get it.
SKC, go just a step deeper. It's who you want to identify with. There's a book that I sent you like 2 years ago, Charles, and you won't remember it, but there's a I cannot remember his name, but his parents were Nigerian. He grew up in Texas, and he will say, and I will find the book, and I'm not being, I'm not denigrating, but his parent, well, um, his parents were like, no, don't hang out with uh, ADOS. He didn't use the term, but they are not winners is the upshot, and
But I okay,
that's a
as
lot
odd
of
as that
immigrants.
as odd
I
as that
can
sounds,
totally see
Stanley,
that kind
I
of conversation.
understand that though.
Well, okay. I don't necessarily. I mean, ADOS, just like any other group, there are people who are successful and people who are not. Identify. Hell, there are plenty of white people who live in Appalachia. Um, it's who you identify with, and skin color isn't necessarily, a marker.
Yeah, but they are black too, so it's not about skin color. It's about
they
culture.
well, I think black is an Americanism. If I moved here from Sudan, I wouldn't necessarily identify as black. SKC, you said you understand, and I pretty much agree with you.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. I mean, sometimes people they get emotional about that, about those subject matters, but
But see, the problem is identity isn't necessarily inside out. It's more outside in. Okay, people that are not you see your skin color and make assumptions. And I won't get deep into that, but self identification isn't necessarily how the world sees you.
So
yeah, I mean, I agree, but
so I
Charles, I don't want to go ahead.
yeah, so I think there are multiple layers to this identity thing when it comes to say black people, right? Like we talked about in the last stream that I watched a video where African Americans and Africans were having a conversation, and the African American made a statement that if there are two black people, if the cops stop two black people, right, and one of them has a foreign sounding accent, that they automatically assume that person to be less threatening than the
Yes.
black person who has an American accent. So
You've
what?
heard the stories about Angela Davis, who grew up in Birmingham, Alabama,
No.
and oh well, she learned French as like a high school student or something, and
Mm,
she would go. She grew up in segregation, the segregated South,
mm,
and she would go into stores and speak French and imitate a French accent, and they did not treat her like a black girl who grew up in Alabama. Those stories are famous. There are tons
mm,
of stories like that. You put on an accent and you get treated differently.
mm. So I think so. I think what this shows is that it's much more than just skin color. Just more, it's more than hating someone for the color of the skin. It's more a this people, this particular group of people with this culture, with this history. I have a problem with them, right? We have a problem with them, and I would put it like if you want to put it in the context of say in Africa, it's more like different ethnicities or different tribes having issues with each other, right? Not necessarily because skin color. That's not It's just these people, this ethnicity. It's like there's a cold war between the white ethnicity and the black ethnicity. I mean the native white and the native black ethnicities
I
in
don't think
America.
it's a Cold War.
Oh, you think it's a hot war?
No, I think it's the water we swim in. America's never not. And you know where I'm going to go with this. America's the water we swim in. The culture, I mean.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is where the part where I get off the train and I exit a little bit left because this is where I disagree with Stanley. With I I don't think that it's a the water we swim in or a war. I think I think that black people are the main participant in the racial war in America.
And I thoroughly disagree with that. I couldn't disagree more. We didn't create the war. That's
Yeah,
my
you don't
point.
have to create the war to perpetuate it or to participate in it
No,
or
it
to
becomes
be
a
the drivers of
defense
it.
mechanism at some point.
But on the whole thing
And it
about
may
the
take generations, it may take a century to unlearn it, but you don't just after 1965 go everything is okay, especially the stuff that tends to flare up. And I won't get on my soapbox, but no, everything is not okay. And people are ignoring it. That's the problem.
yeah. um
Literally go back and read the Constitution. I can send you books. America, and I won't get into it, but literally, this is the danger of reading American history. It
yeah,
is what I say it is.
yeah, I
Literally,
don't want to get I
it's
don't want to
in
get too
writing.
far from I don't want to get too far from Charles' original topic about the whole
Well,
Fresh and
Abba
Fit.
and Preach aren't American, and I will argue they really don't understand American culture.
So the problem is not Aba and Preach, although they're not American either. I think Aba is Ethiopian and Preach is Haitian, right? They
Oh,
are not
okay.
the problem in my opinion. The other two brats, they are the problem. The fraud and fraud guy, as I like to call them, they are the problem.
Mm. Yeah, and again, I think because we live in an age of people who are just being honest, they're less read. They come at an age where information comes at them very easily. So um, things like doing research and then when you couple that with broken family structures and not having a lot of male either male head or just males in the household, uh, then it just creates a I don't know the perfect conditions for a bunch of guys that need to that have a desire to hear um, male talk, and now that that's all over the internet, people are pining for it and seeking different messages. I just think that Fresh and Fit are probably quite more entertaining than a lot of other people, and that's what gets them a lot of followers. I mean, think about it.
Not
You have
not in the least. They're not in the least. Are they even entertaining? They are
well, I'm talking about
annoying. Yeah.
I'm talking about
Well,
from the mindset of those type of people. Think about it.
let me
They're
let me ask
flashing
you a question though.
scantily clothed women in front of them and then talking
Oh,
crazy. It's like that's a
you're
lot of that's what they've been always wanted to see.
SKC, you're talking about strong family role models, correct?
Correct.
Do you know that many American presidents didn't have fathers growing up?
Okay, so
Jefferson is one of them. His father died early. Obama, his father went back to Africa. Bill Clinton. There, there are tons. Um, I don't disagree about it being easier with an intact family. I will never disagree with that because I think you're absolutely right. But there are workarounds. There are
okay,
ways to compensate,
right, and I will agree with you on that. But then
but
that's when
you
we got to
have to
start
want to
parsing.
compensate, and
Yeah,
the
but that's when we start
society
getting
has
into
to
the
want to compensate.
right. But that's when we start to get into where I have to bring up the data and I have to start
Well,
sounding
bring up the data.
like
I'm okay with the data.
I have to go into my Glenn Lowry bag and say,
Okay, Glenn
uh,
Lowry has was a whole. I won't go there. Glenn Lowry's not the best
no,
person to
no, no.
talk about fatherhood.
I'm just talking about
Neither
the
is
I'm just
John
talking about
McWhorter, for that matter.
yeah, I'm just talking about the data. That's it. I'm not talking about
You
their
know what?
personal
Live
lives.
by the data, die by the data.
Okay,
Um,
so
that's
so
that's
so
half
when
of
we
America's problem. We believe the data, and it defies common sense.
okay, but if the data is telling me, like, say, if I go to Charles and I say, Charles, what tell me what you think from this data set? Okay,
But
one
that's
one group of people. Let's say people A, 69% of their children are in two parent households. And then I say in Charles Group B, only 30% of their children are in two parent households.
let me
And
let
if
me
if I
answer
said
when you're
Charles,
done.
make your own
Let me
assessment
finish.
as to some of the issues that you may think could come from these two groups. Are they would they have the same chances in life? Do you think what do you think, Charles?
Can you? Oh, I'm sorry, Charles.
So, okay, let me. I like. I don't like single cause narratives, right?
Hmm.
So, it's easy to just say it's the father not being in the home that's causing this problem, right? The father could very well be in the home and be useless as well. And on the other hand, that the father is not at home and the child turns out to be great, like Obama and Jefferson, those might just be exceptions. How many kids like Obama did not get to make it because their father was not at home? So I think other factors come into play too. For example, when the father is not at home, there is much more financial vulnerability, and that can lead to all sorts of problems, right? There can be so many other things that will come into play. So we cannot discount the impact of other things, other factors that we're not looking at in understanding why this problem is the way it is, why it's persisting, right? Because if you were to put fathers, just put fathers in the homes of all these families that you think are broken and all that. Do you really think that alone, that single factor alone, would be able to turn things around? What if these men don't even know what it means to be a man in the first place, what it means to be a father? If they can't teach the value, it's not just being a male, it's not just having the physical features of being a man. These
But
boys growing up now that are learning these things from YouTube, from Fresh and Fit, do you think they'll make good fathers, even if they are in their children's lives? That's one point.
but
On the
you
other hand,
also
on the other hand, sorry, let me finish. On the other hand, the absence of the father in the home creates a gap in the first place, such that there is no positive role model, which means that the child has to look for that elsewhere. And the streets are dangerous for you to let something as key, as crucial, as critical as building up a man, as you for you to let it just go to their peers, for you to let it go to the internet, for you to let it go to society in general. So there are all sorts of problems in my head. There's this juggling that I'm trying to find the balance. I haven't found the balance yet, But I would agree with Stanley and with SKC. Of course, it's always better to have the father in the home. But on the other hand, it might be an oversimplification to say just because there are no fathers in the homes, then remember what conservatives always say: causation or correlation does not always mean causation. So we have to look at
Correct.
other factors.
Right. And the thing is, and this is going to be a weird point, and I don't have the data handy, but I made a point about 2 years ago to someone um, on one of these Discord channels that a single white mother, young single white mother, is more likely to be okay than a single young black mother just because of the wealth gap. You know, grandpa or uncle or someone in the family is more likely to be able to, help monetarily or, otherwise than in for a single black mother. Um, I don't have the data, but you could just do it common sense wise. The wealth gap explains a lot.
But Stanley, if you don't have the data, how are you making this assertion?
I don't common sense.
Mm, 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 mm,
If
mm.
a
So
population is
you're saying
richer and
no,
and
you're saying no.
okay,
Let me try.
you're okay.
You're
Well,
saying
I'm not gonna
a
make a
single
data argument.
no, you're saying a single white mother, the
Yes,
outcomes for a family led by a single white mother
yes.
is better than that made for a single black
More
mother.
likely
More
was
likely,
my
what
term.
based on what? Is it
Okay,
based on
I will
observation?
have to
Based
dig
on
up the
family?
data, but
Yeah, that'd
Charles,
be fine.
Charles, the
Yeah.
wealth gap in the United States, white people are literally 10 times richer per household than black families.
So do you think?
Therefore, no, let me finish.
Okay.
Therefore, a single white mother, young white mother, is going to be more likely to be better off than a young black single mother.
How do you
Just
define
take
better
the
off?
wealth gap.
How do you define better off? Do you mean better off financially, or
I
do you
mean,
mean better
I
off for
mean,
outcomes for children?
okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, pretty much better off. They're gonna be less likely to be on welfare for starters. The kids are more likely to go to a better school uh, based on just the wealth gap. Richer people tend to live in better school districts than poor people in the United States. There's some things you can do, like just based on general knowledge, and I'll get the data.
So
Yeah,
are you
but
trying to
the
say that you're
problem,
doomed once you're poor in America? You're like doomed, like that's it. You're doomed to
I'm not sure I don't
poverty,
know
to
that I disagree
crime.
with that point. In America, if you're poor, you're less likely to be successful than if you're rich. Yeah, I agree with that.
I thought that was pretty much like everywhere across the globe.
Probably.
I thought that was just a a fact of
Okay,
humanity. But
okay, but
but the other part that I
but
think that
that's
you
still a
were
valid point.
right, right. But I think that the point that you were missing out
And
was
it
on the whole
shouldn't
thing
even
about
be
the
that way, quite frankly.
well, I think the part that you were missing out on when you were bringing up the wealth gap was
Hmm.
that it cannot be applied across to everyone. I could see if you were
Sure it can.
if
I'm
you
looking
were
demographically.
I could see if you were going by different sets of classes, but typically
No, I'm
the wealth
looking at
gap is
Please, Stanley,
I'm
let him finish his point.
literally looking at
Stanley, let him finish his point.
demographics.
Let him finish his point, Stanley, please. Go ahead, SKC.
Yeah, and I think the other part of that, that with the quote unquote wealth gap, is that um, when you have intact families, and say you have a family, a person that comes from an intact family but becomes like a single father or a single mother, they still benefit from almost like the compound social interest and financial interest that their intact family has already produced. But when you do that over several generations, when you do broken families over several generations, then you don't benefit from any of that.
Let me know when I can ask you a question.
Go
Taking
ahead.
taking your scenario, which demographic is richer, has more money?
What do you mean?
I mean exactly that. If we're going to take, essentially, you just
Well,
described
okay,
generational wealth, correct?
yeah, I'll do the same thing
Okay, which
as Charles.
demographic group, given
I'll
American
answer.
history,
I'll answer, but I'll answer the same way that Charles answered. I'm learning from him, Charles the Great. What's being done is not to just take a singular issue and then to extrapolate that as the sole factor to solve the equation. It's
you are
like
not
it,
understanding my
it,
argument.
it's easy to say, well, white people are richer in the country, but at the same time, there are a multitude of factors
Oh, for
that
God's sake.
contribute to that wealth gap. There's
May
culture,
I ask you a question?
um,
And let's just are
education, there's
Sorry,
family
white
makeup.
people are
Let
white
him
people as a demographic richer than black people as a demographic?
So,
Yes.
like SKC is saying,
Okay,
wealth
we
is
can
one part of
stop
the
there
equation.
because you've
Wealth
proved my
is
argument.
so. If I get
Literally,
what
if
SKC is
white
saying,
people as a 60% of the country demographic are richer by 10 times as a 12 to 13% demographic, then you've answered pretty much, or you've proven my argument.
I think that that's an oversimplification,
It
but
is not
I
an
mean,
oversimplification. It's literally common sense. If 60% of the population is 10 times richer than 12% of a population, who's richer?
okay, but in the
No, no,
same,
no, no. Please, please answer my
I, I,
question.
I, the answer would be white people are richer. We
Okay,
already know
I'm
that.
done.
But my counter to that is that there's a lot of
We
black
could
people
be richer.
that I'm 5 or 6 times richer than.
Dude, really?
Yes.
Okay, now we've gone from a broad demographic to you personally. How is that any sort of an argument?
Just a way that there's a lot of white people who are hundreds of times richer than some white people that are in the Appalachians. It's such a what you're
Oh
making
my
such a
God. You
general.
are picking
okay. So
at
I have a question for
very,
Sammy.
oh my,
Sammy, I
dude.
have a question for you, right? So this is not the first time you've mentioned poor people in Appalachia. So I've got to ask, do you
Okay,
see the
we're
same
getting,
do you see the same pathologies that you
do
see with poor
most,
black
yes, there's the
neighborhoods? You
same
see the same
pathology.
to the same extent, really? Like the crime rates,
Yeah, I
the
would
murder
say
rate,
so.
the
Yeah, to the
out of
same extent.
wedlock rates, the
Yes.
single motherhood rates, and all that.
I won't go deep into the numbers, but my experience has been, yeah, poor in Appalachia can be as bad as poor in, inner city.
Wow, that's something we need to look into. I think
Not
Yeah,
we need
hard
to
to
look
do.
into.
the data does not support that.
But I also want to go back to my point. Just in broad numbers, don't need specifics. Sure,
So that was the
there
point.
are black people who are richer than white people. That's obvious. As a demographic,
So Stanley, do you take into consideration the wealth of some few black few white people that like very wealthy when you are when
well,
these
when I
calculations are made, like people
um
like Jeff Bezos,
yes,
Elon Musk,
absolutely.
don't you think that that skews the median or
Yes,
the
you're right.
mean wealth for white
You're
families?
right.
So it might not be a true reflection of how the average white family actually is. It might
That
not
is not
actually
a
be
bad
10
argument.
times better richer than black families.
Not a bad argument, but I'm waiting to see data that controls for billionairehood.
Well, it's you're making the same argument that people that the feminists used to make about the wealth gap between men and women, and there
Except
were a
I'm
lot
not
of
making a
and,
feminist argument
and there were a lot of
because
other factors that
feminists
went
are,
into that wealth gap other than
it's
just
it's
male and
not a
female.
good argument. They're controlling for men. I'm saying that billionaires don't get controlled for, at least as far as I know.
Okay, all right. I don't know. At
And
the
by the
outset,
way,
it just
there are more white women billionaires than there are more black women billionaires.
I would think that would should be the case.
Okay, but my
They're
point
more
is
populous by six.
okay.
They're more populous by a
So
factor
you're
of six.
making my argument, and
So
I
I
don't have a problem with you making my argument.
so I think there are a couple of points that have been raised in this stream which I want us to follow up on. I believe Stanley and SKC. Stanley, you made a proposal that you'd like to talk to SKC about something.
Oh,
So maybe
education.
education. So maybe as part of that conversation, when we have that conversation, let's follow up on what are the features of poor white communities as opposed to poor black communities? Do we see similar pathologies or are there differences? No
Well,
data.
they're different pathologies,
Yeah, but
but
are there
I mean,
pathologies
poverty.
that's
But
significant?
see, the
So
weird.
we have to look at that.
Oh,
You
got
you
it.
don't you don't have to answer now. You don't have to answer now. We can go back and do some research on that. And
Got it.
Yeah, I
this
would like to research that and come up with some specific points about the differences between the two. But yeah, I think that'll be a good
Oh my
conversation for
God.
the educational bit. Um, but since you stated that, Charles, I think that this may factor back into your original conversation about fresh and
mm,
fit and all of those things. It could be that it could be that the message that is actually needed to be had between men and women. Maybe Fresh and Fit know that that's not a message that um, would be as sellable. It's not as viral. So because the things that people quote unquote need to hear and that would actually give them a future that requires a lot of hard work. It requires
Oh, that is a beautiful point.
it requires patience and
Nice.
a lot of the feely words that doesn't mesh well with a red pill or a ultra masculine
So, so
message.
SKC, I'm in love with you again. So you may have to actually think.
Well, I
Well,
have
no, no,
guys
no, no.
here that listen.
Dude, you are
I
making an
engage in.
awesome point. You
Well,
might actually have to think.
I engage with conversations with some of the guys that are in the chat, and one
mm,
of the things that I'll state is that, and tell me if I'm wrong, Charles. In a lot of those conversations with the red pill and the relationship stuff, when is it that you've ever heard the word love?
not once. Not once. I mean, not once. It doesn't
because it
exist.
is like kryptonite to to that entire segment of conversation over there. And
Mm.
what the thing that I find so interesting about that is that you will have people who will sit up and state that they love their children. They'll say that they can have love for their parent or whatever. Nevertheless, they cannot love the person who they made the children with. That's a carnal sin in a lot of those conversations.
Hello,
Hi,
everyone.
hi, Empress Janet. Welcome.
Thank
Hey,
you. I wanted to come as a woman to just give my perspective of what was going on. And I know Stanley, and I want to know why Stanley's over here and he didn't tell me about this channel. Mhm.
Cool. So let's
I,
hear your thoughts.
About because I kind of jumped in and lost what you guys were talking. You know what I mean? I know what you're talking about, but just as
So
go
we
ahead.
started with Fresh and Fit. I don't know if you know them and their content and how they denigrate women, and they were kind of having a beef with Aba and Preach, and they started invoking racist stereotypes, calling Aba and Preach monkeys and all those stuff. So we were kind of talking about the red pill movement, the problems with the red pill movement, and the challenges, the kind of messaging they are putting out there, and whether or not they are genuine in their messaging, and how young men are eating up the trash, the rubbish that they are putting out. So that's kind of where the conversation started before we
I
pivoted.
appreciate
So
that. I do believe that there's a lot of rhetoric on what, is expected between man and woman or nationalities. Um, I've been called a white woman, and, I've gone through some things that, I've said some things. I believe that we're comfortable with saying things to each other opposed to really knowing how deep it can go, how it can affect other people. But I believe that anybody that's not lifting up someone else, there can be injuries in that. Women do not respect men. They don't respect the position that they really do have. And they do have a position. Do men keep that position or do they know that they have that title? I don't think so. Because the younger generation believes that they can say whatever they want and there's no consequence to it.
Yeah, but Empress Janet, I'll put it this way: um, is that not part of the subculture of Black America?
Yeah,
Roasting, bussing, cussing,
no,
battle rap, fighting, and going.
no.
yes,
Oh my
That not
goodness.
baked? Is that not baked into the cake?
You
it's the
please.
ingredients, Stanley. When we were growing up, Stanley, you cannot tell me that they didn't pick on you, that they didn't have that way about.
No, they did not.
Okay, well, I was. Black people talked about my shoes, my hair, the way I had French braids instead of cornrows.
Well, I'm not gonna fuss with you over this, but
Yo mama
no.
jokes came from
Your
Black
mama
America.
joke. There we go. And now
Okay,
you
well,
can't say
maybe growing up
Stanley, is it
in the
possible that you
deep
experience?
South.
Yeah, is it possible that your experience is kind of unique, atypical of
No,
the majority black experience in America? Because
no, it
SKC
is
and Empress are saying
actually a
different.
common experience in Black America.
I don't know, Stanley, because
Black
you're
Black people don't.
you're not the
Black,
typical black man. Because again, people didn't even
oh,
know
for
you
God's sake!
were black. But your voice,
Look,
his voice,
here,
just throw things off, and people. That's what they did to me. They, Stanley, you already know they tried to call me a white woman.
let me put it to you this way:
I had
Had
to
you
turn my
grown
camera
up,
on because the nerve of people.
had you grown up in Savannah, Georgia, yeah, you take a couple jokes or two, but if you can like check them back,
But
um,
that's not what they're asking. The point that that SKC just said, Stanley, is it happens. It's in the culture to drag the shoes, to drag the outfit.
no, it is not.
Well, then
There's
where
a whole
that is,
Jack and Jill culture. There's
White people do not say, "Oh, look at his shoes." They don't do that.
I
That's
don't
not in.
think black people do.
What are those?
What are those
No,
exactly?
I
And also when
Janet
black
and
people talk, they
SKC.
quick to go on the
I
lips, they go
literally
on the face,
grew up
on
in a.
the appearance. When white people talk, they want to go off of the way you're acting. So again,
I'm not sure I disagree with that, but I literally grew up in a black neighborhood in Savannah, Georgia. Now, it was kind of classy. We weren't rich, but we weren't poor. You know what? Um, I don't think there are tons of people who grew up in the South in the same sorts of neighborhoods. And I'm one of the idiots who like to talk about that sort of stuff. Um, I don't think
I grew up in
ADOS
New
culture
Jersey.
specifically
Stanley,
is into
Stanley,
shoes. I just don't
Stanley.
think so.
Black culture in America literally has a music genre called battle rap.
Right.
But they
It's
also
like come
they
come
also
on.
do, but they
Very,
also have Duke Ellington.
and they used to break dance and fight.
They have Etta James. They have James Brown.
I'm about to
Yeah, now
Battle
now all
rap
now, now,
is a
all, now all of those
recent.
now all of those things
Tell
that
me,
you now
Duke
all of those
Ellington. Duke Ellington is rap.
yeah, I get that, Stanley. But what I'm
Okay,
stating
well,
is
get it
that
more, because
what I'm
there's
what I'm saying.
way more black geniuses at music than there are rappers.
I understand your argument, Stanley, but the only thing I'm not disagreeing with you on that. What I'm telling you is that the popular culture that comes out of Black America today in modern times does not venerate Duke Ellington.
It
It
does
venerates Pimp
generate.
Trick Gangsta Click.
right.
Oh,
That's what it does.
come on.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
You need to take a wider view of American history.
But he's not talking about history. You need to stop.
No,
You need to drink
we
some
live
water.
in
You need to drink
history.
some water. He's not saying that though.
Okay,
The
all
argument
right.
is what he's saying. He's saying now in this day and age, it's getting out of control.
I
It's where
don't
they're
agree with that.
canceling
I
people
think it's
through
no
So
worse.
Stanley,
But
you
see,
think there
I
is
don't
no
agree
problem,
with that.
right? You think there's no problem. There's no
No,
problem.
there is a problem, but it's not an existential problem.
Oh, so kids putting themselves,
So
I don't know. You're
Charles, what's
laughing,
your
there is
nationality?
SKC.
no problem.
Charles,
Will be black
I
people.
am laughing.
Glenn
I am laughing
Lowry.
because
Glenn
I am
Lowry.
laughing because
Glenn Lowry of all people.
even what 20 years ago, what was that? Bill Cosby had his pound cake
I
speech,
was
and
alive
you're
20
stating that
years ago.
today everything is just fine.
Okay, but look what happened to Bill Cosby. While he was saying it, he wasn't fine. And he
well,
wasn't treating black women fine either.
and
That
that's
doesn't
Yet,
take away from
yet,
the truth of
yet,
what he stated.
SKC,
It happened.
SKC, 20 years ago, you and I survived Bill Cosby, and we're talking. Black culture will be fine.
Okay. If I could ask a question, Charles,
Go ahead.
in Africa, when Africans think about Black American culture, do they think Duke Ellington or do they think Jay Z?
That's a simple one. Jay-Z.
Okay.
Is there a point?
yes,
I
that's a
don't know.
good
No, no,
point.
no, no. SKC, what is your point? Presentist?
My point is
So
that
they don't
it,
know about Duke Ellington.
my point is that the low culture has
Oh, for God's
become
sake.
has become such a
Let's
prevailing face of Black America that you can't state Black America without thinking about the the very flamboyant lowest parts of culture. You can't do
You
it.
know what? I
You
never
think Black
thought.
America, you think Lizzo. You think Black America, you
I
think
think Lizzo is
gangsters and
great.
people shooting and going on in crime and such and such. It is what it is. This is just a truth.
You know what? Someone is it Free Zone Lou thinks I'm stuck in the past. Well, I'm old,
Yeah,
but
you
I
are
don't.
stuck in the past. It's
I
okay.
think you all are stuck in the present.
Duh. We want to be. Old
You
school
want
told
to
us
be?
to keep up with the times to stay around, honey. I got 50 Cent Mo. I'm going to keep, honey. We ain't doing this, Stanley. This is a little bit of alcohol talking, brother. You cannot tell me that you want to stuck in
Okay.
the
Well,
past.
you know what? I am defeated.
Well, because I love you, Stanley. And that's why I love you dearly. I mean that.
However,
We can't live in
um,
the past. We have to keep on
we
going.
can't raise our kids to
Yeah,
Jay
you
Z.
have to raise them with this new era crap to tell them what
Wait,
no.
wait. Hold on. Just a moment. Just a moment. Stanley, did you just say that
No,
people
I
can't
said exactly what I said.
they can't raise their children on Jay-Z?
I hope not.
Oh, Stanley. You're like two generations late.
Right.
Oh
He's in the
Jesus.
window, looking out the window.
You know what?
You're like
I
two
don't
generations late, Stanley.
I don't
Oh,
know
I
that
feel so.
well,
Oh
no, I
man.
feel so old.
No. It's not about being older or anything. I almost feel saddened because
Oh
I'm
God,
like,
you
my
feel sad
goodness,
for me now?
yes, because holy crap, Stanley, do you not understand that
No, I
you have a large majority? I'm not saying a minority,
dude,
a
I'm
majority
raising
of
my son will be
kids that
17
they
in
do not
2 days
they are
or
not
3 days.
math or reading proficient, but they know word for word
Okay,
a
well
rap
then
album.
all I can say is thank God I live outside of your sort of negativity.
No, it's not on me.
It's the
Dude,
world.
you're telling me how I live. I'm telling you the son I've raised.
No. I'm not telling you how you live.
No, no, no,
I'm
no, no.
saying
I don't mean you personally telling me this, but I know it's possible.
no, I'm not
Parents
saying that it's
raise
impossible.
kids.
I'm not saying that it's impossible.
But
What I'm
Stanley,
stating
let
is
me jump in because you don't know what your son's doing when you're not around. You don't know what he's watching on the internet. You
I
don't
know
really.
his grade point average. I know he'll be out in 2 years and
That's
I
not
can't
what I.
control it then. He lives with me. I get to decide.
You know that. Okay, I know you
Dude,
did. I told you
but
you're not going to
but
have them reign.
honestly, Janet,
Yes,
in
dear.
2 years, there's not much I can do, but
I know.
I'll have a say. But oh
Watch how he's
my,
going to show you what he's really been hiding.
no. I
Yeah,
actually have
you know
confidence that
what,
Stanley is a great father.
I'm
I,
no,
gonna
Stanley's
tell you
amazing
right
dad.
now.
He's an
I'm gonna
amazing
tell you.
dad, but the
No, 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 no,
disconnect
no.
of
I'm
emotions.
gonna tell
Stanley
you
don't
right
have no
now. If
emotions, so he's just
no,
doing to make it
just like my parents trusted me, and yeah, I
that
did
part.
some
And that's why
things.
I said we get
I
shown
trust
what
my
we
son
learn. I know
within
you do.
limits, of
I
course.
trusted mine, and I
Within
learned,
limits.
Stanley. I just learned that when they were older now, I told you this. We had this convo. Like you're going to be a different parent when that time comes.
Because you can't
Stanley,
make all their decisions.
Stanley, there's a question from Ogie for you on the
I'm
screen.
sorry, Charles.
Yeah, there's a question for you by Ogie on the screen.
He's gonna kick my ass, isn't he?
No,
So
don't say that.
he says, can you reconcile what SKC and Empress are saying as a subculture?
Oh, good question.
Well, you know what? He is gonna trap me here, and he's absolutely right. Black culture is a subculture to American culture. I agree with that.
yeah, and I'm just saying that I'm not trying
And
to be
Ogie, how
harsh or
about call
anything.
in?
Yeah, I'm
No,
not
no, no.
trying to
I
be
don't.
harsh or anything,
SKC,
but
I don't.
He has
SKC,
stuff
I
to
don't
get.
think you're being harsh.
No, he's
Not at
but
done.
but
all.
the
He's a
but
no.
the subculture of Black America And just being
But
honest, the subculture of Black America in 2023 is anti-family.
okay,
Right.
but no, it's not.
Yes, sir. It is. I'm telling you, sir. When my
Where are
children
y'all living?
don't want to give me a legacy because they're too worried about themselves, I want grandbabies. They don't want that family oriented that I was raised on, that I taught them. That's why my children don't have children right now, Stanley. So you can't see that, love. That's all I'm saying. Is that watch what happens. They're not doing the family order. It's not the man and the woman and the children. That's why women are not
It better
respecting
be.
them because they think they can take it all on, and it's not true.
Okay.
Man.
Yeah, I just thought it was just common sense just to state from the data. You can't say that you have a family oriented culture with a marital rate that's under 30%.
Right, it's horrible. Say that again. The statistics tell you.
Honestly,
People are raised
SKC
to
and
have a
Janet,
husband, honey. That's how I was raised.
SKC and Janet,
But I'm
if
just saying,
you if you if you are living to statistics, you will live a horrible life. You have to live within parameters, of course, but do you honestly think that I raised my son according to data?
You
My
know,
parents, my
you know,
parents did not
Melinda,
raise. No,
Melinda,
no, 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 no. Please let me finish.
Melinda's.
My
Okay,
mother and my father, who were both over 80, they didn't raise me to data. They raised me the way they thought I should be raised.
But that's
yeah,
anecdotal. That's anecdotal, and
So
it might not.
we don't pay attention to, if you're a good person and you're lucky enough to marry a good woman or vice versa, you raise those kids the way they should be raised. And it may not be what society or how society thinks, but I would say 80% of the time, those kids are going to be smarter than parents who listen to data.
you know, Stanley. There's a guy. This morning I was talking with. I would call him a friend of mine. Bernard Riley. He has his own show. I would say check it
Mhm.
out sometime.
Okay.
On during this show, he played a clip of a guy who is a pro black community guy, and he goes out into the black community and he tries to help families and the whole nine. And he sat down with this one family and the mother and the child, and this 12-year old girl told him that being a baby mom was just fine.
no.
That's
And
like,
and and what I don't think that you're realizing is that's the current trend of black women. That's not an anomaly. She is not an anomaly.
um, but that's not my point. If you in we are all lucky enough to have kids. Don't raise your kids to be an anomaly. You don't get my point, do you? If you know what's right, raise your kids just right.
Yeah, I'm not making a personal.
Oh, no, 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 no.
I'm not
I'm
making a
not
personal
thinking that. No,
conversation as to what each individual
sir.
should do. I'm just
Honestly,
reading. I'm just reading the lay of
SKC,
the
I
land.
know.
That's it.
SKC, I know you better than that. I know it's you're not. You know, no, I don't think that at all. I don't know. Y'all are either making me scared straight, or just, I- dude. I'm from Savannah, Georgia. I live in Georgia. Um, I
You
see
live in a
good
palace
parents
in
all the
Georgia.
time.
It's living in a palace in Georgia. So
Oh, yeah. You think this is a palace?
You know, I feel for you, Stanley, because I like my guy. I hope you know something. I do not want to be the one who opens up that Pandora's box for you. I want you to
Dude, I'm
continue
58
to
years old. I've
just
had
see it
like
as
a
the way that you see it. I do not want to be that person. I
dude,
do not
I
want to
was
be that
in the
person.
Navy, have worked for a couple Fortune 500 companies. I've seen Pandora's box, and I didn't raise my son um by what was in the box.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying that's not the argument. I'm just stating that Pandora's box has been opened,
Oh
and
well,
Black
shit.
America
That
is
was
living
open
in it,
like
and it's
2,000,
like
3,000, 4,000 years ago.
okay, yeah.
Well, no,
I think
you're
we're
gonna.
making a totally different argument, but
Stanley,
Well, no, actually,
Stanley,
it's a good
you know
argument.
you are stating the
America,
point.
Pandora's box wasn't opened in 1776 or 1865.
okay. I, I'll state this, Charles, with the fresh and fit and the black on black racism and all of that stuff in the clip that you were playing earlier. Um, I think one of the reasons that you do have portions of Black America that does resonate with the fresh and fit message and model is because there have been severe breakdowns in the culture, tradition, and a lot of those guys are they come out in default setting as family bad.
Mm,
So of course the fresh and fit message resonates with them because it's more of confirmation bias than
mm.
anything else.
That's interesting to note. So, Stanley, probably
Well,
maybe
I'm
you need to go out
chastised.
to you need to go out to other place out to other places out of Georgia and see
You know
how,
what?
how black people live
I'm
in
going to
America.
Tennessee tomorrow.
Please do.
Um, but it's with my in-laws. Um, you guys think that I live in some weird sort of bubble? I
I'm gonna
don't.
put something in. I'm gonna bring something up for you, and I want to get your
Oh
thoughts on it
no.
really quick, Stanley.
Please don't kick my ass that much. I'm not out of touch.
So, Empress, I have a question for you. As a woman, how do you deal with these immature red pill manosphere guys?
Well, I like that you asked that question. Thank you for saying the whole elephant in the room. I don't really know those red pill people. I want to learn about. I asked Stanley because I think Stanley was from the manosphere for a long time. So, but I will say that the men nowadays don't have the chivalry is not dead, but they just don't understand it. And again, like for example, today a young gentleman tried to call me like I was a chicken, and I just address things accordingly. So I feel that, I need to know a little bit more about this red pill thing because I've heard like the red pill and the blue pill and how these men are, but I can't remember if the ones are like ones represent their women. One aren't even supposed to have a woman.
Well,
Like one. Go
your
ahead.
British audience, um, they've talked to you about it before.
Yeah, they did, and as I said, I can't really remember like the red. They kept the red is
Because
good, blue is
it's
bad.
really not that important in
I
my
think that's just apples and oranges to things because I deal with alpha and beta people. So maybe that's what I'm mistaken. I like alpha men.
that's
So I don't
Mm.
really
So,
like beta men. I get really like, and my skin just starts to
so
burn.
a lot of these a lot of these red pill men call themselves alphas, right? So,
Okay. Oh, it's like no, but no. I mean, because a lot of times, so I believe in supporting heterosexual men. Everyone's on this, five,
oh
7
no.
thing, and I really believe that heterosexual men are being lost in this war that's going on, and they're the ones that we need to actually have conversations with because they're not going
Well,
to
I
change
think if you
themselves.
have to identify As an alpha male, you're not an alpha male.
Well, they don't really. Okay.
It,
Well,
it should
True,
always be
I think
true,
assumed.
there's
true.
like like you Stanley, you're a perfect example of one. Like
Oh
you're the
no.
old school ever, but you're the sweetest gentleman to me. So I
But
get what
I can
you know.
split wood.
I would say that the new men that think like okay, like Andrew Tate would he be like a red pill? Is that
That's
an
a
example of a
moron.
red?
Or fresh and fit. They have to call themselves fresh and
Yeah.
fit.
So yeah. So Andrew Tate
That's
is
like the
also
new Amos and Andy.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Charles?
yeah. So Andrew Tate is also in that class of guys who refer to themselves as alphas, right? So the
Right.
bombastic, type where they don't really respect women. Oh, so SKC is sharing something. Let me play it. Right. SKC, you there?
He never turned around. He never lift the gun up or raised it at the officer.
Franklin speaking out one day after prosecutors charged the teen with several charges, including survive.
My son wasn't supposed to be gunned down the way he was.
What about the fact that your son had a gun?
He had a gun because he was scared for his life. We live in Baltimore City.
The debate over the shooting still ongoing amid gun violence involving youth.
How can you blame that on the parent? My son's 17 years old. He's not a 5-year-old little kid. You feel me? So at the end of the day, there's only but so much I can do.
Why did we have to get in a pause with her lips like that?
SKC.
Well, no, this is actually something SKC might agree with. If a parent says it's all I can do, I'm flabbergasted. There's always more you can do.
That happened in um, DC, out of PG County. It was connected to PG County, and they had a flurry of juvenile delinquents that were doing things over the last week, but it's been a huge increase um, over the last few years, to the point to where they had a town hall, and you had parents there who were yelling and talking about, okay, enough is enough. Other people, the parents of these juvenile delinquents need to be held accountable criminally. That's where we're at 2023 in Black America.
Oh, that is such a complicated statement. Um, and I don't have time to go back
Yeah, I
and
didn't make the
deconstruct it,
yeah,
but it is
I didn't
such
make
a
the argument. I didn't make the
well,
argument,
it's
Stanley. But one thing I
right.
will state about that argument, and it's
You
being
agree.
argued now. No, no, no. One thing I'm stating is this: the people who made that argument, that is the richest black county in the United States.
Yeah, and
They were the ones.
every part of PG County, there's some ghetto parts. You PG.
I understand that, Stanley. But
Well, dude,
the
I'm
arguments that they
familiar with the
made were
area.
the arguments that they made were
Mhm.
that we've invested enough in dozens and dozens and dozens of programs. We've invested 2.8 billion into education. They stated we cannot. There isn't
Who is
enough
they?
programs that are going to fix the problem.
Who is
If you
they?
want to, if you want me to play it for you, I'll let you hear it for
Well, no, I
yourself.
just saw
I
the
have a
video.
question.
Did she invest a lot of money in her 17-year-old?
I have a question. I have a question. How is it possible to even have subpar education in the US in the first place? How it blows my mind that there is anything like substandard education. Like,
uh,
how is that possible?
it's freedom of choice. It's First Amendment.
Wow.
You're free to raise your kids the way you want. The government
Yeah,
doesn't control how smart your children are.
yeah, but that's different from the
No,
school
it's not
itself,
really.
the kind of education, the quality of teachers, the
No,
quality of the school,
honestly,
and all that. That's
look at what's happening in Florida. The governor has started telling what teachers can teach.
but that's just happened
It's the
recently.
same thing. Education, it's not even in the parents' hands.
So are you saying that the government is telling certain schools to teach
In
black
Florida,
kids
yes.
to no, I
In
mean,
Florida,
are
yes.
you saying that, listen to me, Stanley, are you saying that from time, maybe 10, 20 years ago up until this point, that black schools,
Yes.
the government was asking black schools to give substantial education? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Any proof for that?
Li- Dude, let's start with the Dunning School. Dunning,
Okay.
Dunning School. Literally. Let's start there. And then let's go back to 1865,
Mm.
into Reconstruction. I've got stuff, especially out on the sea islands of South Carolina and South Georgia. Yes, there are. America has never, America has always been literally since 1607. Education has always been the realm of the wealthy. So we have a class argument. And it starts with you can't teach your slave how to read. The easiest thing I can think of is read Frederick Douglass's two autobiographies.
Okay.
I 100
Education has never been a priority, especially for black kids.
I 100% disagree. But
No, well, please, I'm interested in why you disagree.
sure, I'll just let you hear it from the horse's mouth. I mean,
Okay,
if you
Frederick
want to,
Douglass's mouth?
if you
Because
want
he
to share screen,
literally talks
I'll
about
let them
this.
hear it from the horse's mouth.
A
So do you
horse.
want me to play that video? The video you're sharing. Let's get see.
You said what?
The video, you want me to play the video you're sharing?
Sure.
Okay.
Increase in violence in our community and in communities all across the nation, especially youth violence. And I want you to know that this government has spared no expense to address this issue. We made sure that our police department have had the funding that they need to do their jobs, while also putting in place new resources and
Oh
programs
boy.
that provide more opportunities for our youth and young adults. In this year's budget that we just passed, we are fully funding our school system budget by investing a historic $2.8 billion, which is 6.5% increase over our historic funding from last year. We've invested $390 million directly to support our police department in this year's budget, ensuring that they have the resources they need to combat the rising crime. That funding supports 4 new recruit classes for a total of 120 new police officers. We're also providing incentives for new police officers. We've allocated funding for the Police Explorers program to help expose young people to positive interactions with police and potential careers in law enforcement. We're also putting another $2.5 million toward youth development programs in our county. Those programs are similar to our summer youth enrichment program. We have these summer passport programs, and over the past 4 years, even in a pandemic, we hired over 17,000 youth through the summer youth enrichment program, and over another 1,600 youth have been provided opportunities through our summer passport program. You should know that we've also put another $1 million toward Hope in Action, the anti-violence initiative, which has deployed violence interrupters in communities across the county and funded nonprofits to provide wraparound services to youth and to young adults. Through Hope in Action, we have served over 29,000 residents to date who have been served with wraparound services such as after-school programming, mental health services, workforce development, and housing support. We're working to expand behavioral health services because we know that mental health is a top healthcare need for our county, and we've invested $23.2 million just this year in our budget for behavioral health programs. We've created a returning citizens affairs division within our office last year to better support returning citizens as they transition back into our community. And just last month, they held their first annual summit as a part of the National Second Chance Month, in addition to a series of events throughout the month to support returning citizens. We also know that stable and affordable housing is a critical need, and so we've invested $45 million to preserve and create new affordable housing to make sure our families have that. The point is, I can go on and on and on
Oh,
about
please do.
all of the programs and to demonstrate that we've spared no expense to address this issue. It is the case, however, that although we're making investments in our police department, we're making critical investments all along the way. It is still the case that the issue of violence with our children quite literally cannot be resolved just by the police department. It is an issue that cannot be resolved simply by the government alone. We need our to.
I didn't say it.
By the government alone. How many books did they buy with those millions of dollars?
Well, they have actually spent $2.8 billion towards education.
Okay, you're
Billion.
not getting my point, are you? And I don't mean to be personal, but when the hell has money ever worked? We are
Oh,
substituting
no, 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 no,
money.
no.
No, no,
Stanley,
no, no, no.
no,
We are
Stanley.
substituting money for actual work.
Stanley, you can't say when the
Yes,
hell
I
money
can.
ever worked. When a few minutes ago
Money has never worked
you
for
were saying that
educating children.
white families have better outcomes because they are
Okay,
wealthier.
you didn't get my point, did you? The white families have the money, but they also work. They also, I mean, simple, you misunderstood me. I didn't mean having money literally means education happens. What I do mean is that you can afford SAT prep. You can afford a shitload of books in the house. You do have to actually spend the money. Having it doesn't work. So I'm sorry I didn't get into deep data in detail, but there's some common sense I assume that people can apply.
You're talking about the richest county in Black County in the United States,
And
and and and one
you know the beautiful
and
thing. Now
the
look
most.
up.
And
Look,
if you let me finish, if you just let me finish,
no,
and
let's not.
the most
Look
educated
up the
one.
richest black county and then compare it just in the DC area. They're about 10th in the DC area. The richest black county in the US is like the 100th richest county in the US. You're doing a really weird, oh, we're rich. Dude, the way you interpret data, um, we should talk about that. Rich does not equal successful.
So
It means rich.
just so everybody knows, PG County
I know
spent
exactly
spent
what you're talking
spent.
about.
Okay, just so everybody knows, PG County spends more money per student than Fairfax County,
So,
which is a
are
richer
the
white
results
county.
the same, sir?
So just throwing that out there.
Are
All right.
well, let's throw it out there. So, PG County has spent more money than Fairfax County. Who's doing better? Fairfax County has some of the best schools literally in the country. And
So
if you
then,
go
so then,
north
so
of,
then,
if you go
so then, if
north of
it's
that into
so then if
Loudoun
it's not
County,
so then if it's not
Loudoun County
then
has
if it's
better
not
than
money,
Fairfax.
okay. So if it's not money, then what are we talking about? Are we talking
How
about
you
culture?
how you spend the money, that is obvious.
So who is
That
spending the
sounds like that
money?
could be
Is that not black people in power in those counties? How are they spending the money? What are they doing with the money?
I honestly don't know the government of PG County. You tell us, SKC.
Well, I was letting you hear it directly from them, and
Okay,
it
I
sounds as
heard how
though.
they spent money on police and programs. I did not hear how they're solving the problem. We have money enough to solve the problem. I
and what
heard that
they
part.
and what they were stating was is although they have been investing
No,
all
she
of
specifically, not they.
actually it is they because she
Oh, they.
represents a council. She was
Yes.
just a spokesman,
Oh dear.
but she was speaking for a council.
Hmm.
And what they have surmised is that the
How old is this
investments.
video, by the way?
It's 2 weeks old.
Hmm.
What they have surmised is that although they have made these deep
Surmised.
pocket investments in all of these various programs, from um, youth programs to parental programs to housing programs to programs within education and things with police and getting kids to travel via passport programs to see
Oh
different
Jesus.
places, different things. None of it has solved the youth violence issue. And they
And
state
you're just not getting my point, are you?
and they state directly, this cannot be just a governmental issue. It's a parental issue. And that
I
is a
don't disagree
cultural
with that. I don't disagree with that at all.
so that's one of the reasons, Charles, earlier when I
Can
was
you buy
when we were
good
making
parents?
the conversation about you can't just say it's the culture. And I agree with you on that, Charles, that it would be weird just to try to push the square into the peg and say this is the problem. But when I look at PG County and I see, they have exhausted almost
Okay, so your
what people
point
talk about.
is that,
So it must have to be a cultural issue.
oh, you're so full of shit.
Stanley, right after telling him that you love him, now he's full of shit.
Well,
Nah,
I can love a person full of shit.
Wait a minute.
nah, man, Stanley, no, please,
Dude,
please.
you are equating rich. Dude, you are doing the
Stanley, may
same
I
thing.
speak? Stanley,
Elon Musk
Stanley,
is the
Stanley,
richest man in the
Stanley,
country. He's not the smartest man in the
hear me,
country.
Stanley. Stanley, can I speak?
Please do.
Can you relax a little? We cannot get in a good debate if we can't go back and forth. And I want to know how much alcohol you drank, Stanley. Tell the truth right now.
Enough to know that's a bullshit argument.
And that's the problem.
Money does not
Stanley, every time you
equate
drink,
smartness.
but you have to still listen to the other people.
Well,
And you
no,
have to give in.
you got this right. I've had enough alcohol to lose
You have
patience
drink
with
some
dumb
water.
arguments.
Let the man talk because you keep cutting people off and you're not alone. You know how
All righty.
I love you dearly, darling, but you're not trolling. So just allow the other person to speak.
So I can't tease.
No, you can't go all like,
All right. You know.
yeah. So
Apparently Charles has found the Stanley Whisperer.
Stanley, SKC, would you like to say a few words? Because I don't want to argue. I think everyone has a right to their opinion and we can all speak and let others speak as well. So.
Yeah, I hold nothing against Stanley. I know that he's passionate about his position, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, yeah, I just kind of wonder at this point because I'm just using PG County as almost as like an avatar.
Okay.
It's as a test model, and you have enough people there to serve as almost like a great polling place. It's affluent. It's
Oh
primarily
my God.
it's majority black by far. I think in the high 80s or 90 percentile, and and they govern themselves. and yet they still have this violence issue, and it
I see.
doesn't make sense because all of the resources that people typically talk about, if you go to like your shows like your Roland Martins or your Dr. Umar Johnsons or your Hot 97s and your Breakfast Club and all of that, and all the things that they talk about, PG County has and more. They've already made all of those investments, and they still have the same issues.
So you think it's a culture problem?
Stanley, what else would it be?
Not a culture problem? Obviously, I disagree.
So what could it be? Can you tell me what exactly the problem is?
Not a culture problem.
Yeah, not a culture problem. What is it?
Okay, you're basically telling me, and I have
I'm
stated
not telling you anything.
that
I'm
it
asking.
is, well,
This is
let
the
me
awkward
answer.
part. Stanley, answer the question. If it's not that, then what is it? If it's not what he's saying, then what is
I think it's bad parents. I think it's not choosing.
And bad
And
parents
yes,
culture.
you will go that it's a culture problem, but it is not a present. The culture problem, if there's a culture problem, I don't think black culture is really a problem. I grew up in black culture. It's like
That's you,
any
Stanley.
other. Okay, I am black.
Anecdotal.
I'm
and you
sorry, what?
grew up in middle class. So that
No.
was
All I'm saying is you can't say it is a black culture problem to someone who literally grew up in black culture.
But
In
SKC is
a
black.
in a black
SKC grew up
city,
in black
in
culture too, and
a
he's telling you that he's disagreeing with you. So why is your position? Why is your blackness? Why is it? Why does it hold any more weight than SKC's?
ah
dumb decisions,
question, Charles.
dumb decisions. You know what? If you think that money, having a lot of money is the solution to the problem, then that's not black culture. Black
No, that's
culture is
that's
never
part of that
black
was part of the
culture.
argument.
That I think that's his argument. And in
That was,
SKC, please answer. I
that
think
was part of your argument.
no, having a lot of money is not the solution. Some woman saying we are spending billions of dollars on problems is not a solution. Solving the problems is the solution. Paying for it is kind of like the step before you solve.
Yeah,
And I
I
don't
mean,
think it's a black culture problem. There is plenty of black culture that's perfectly fine that raises you, for instance.
yeah.
You're perfectly fine.
I'll just say that uh, I'm the dumbest guy in the room, and
Not hardly. Let
no,
let us disagree on this.
I really am. I'm the dumbest guy in the room. That's
Oh,
why
bullshit.
I kind of trust and lean upon the specialist in those specific fields. And take for instance, like a PG County, they work
Interesting.
day in, day out with that specific community and know
Mhm.
the ins and outs of what the residents' needs are. And
Interesting.
if they're telling me that they have made significant investments in various programs that they have put together for to meet the needs of their constituency, I just don't think that I'm smart enough to just say, "Oh, your programs are dumb."
And
I
you
think
know,
I think that they probably sat down with their community with better minds than myself and try to really create programs that got funded that were truly for the best for their community as other black people looking out for other black people. And
you're
for some reason it's not working. And
you're
I
gonna.
feel, because I think that they really tried.
I think you're gonna kick my ass. You are way smarter than that young lady who was talking about billions spent. I bet you could do a better job. And this isn't this isn't an education issue. This is it's a common sense issue.
But Stanley, I've got to ask if it's a parenting issue, right? And you are finding this parenting issue with almost all the family, with the majority of the families within a community.
No,
How is that
I
not
don't
a
know
culture
Wait a
what.
problem?
minute.
How
Let
is
him
that not a
finish, Stanley.
problem with the culture? Literally, culture is the way of life of a people. At least that's how it was defined for us, right? So
Right,
if the people are living this particular way where the parents are not parenting properly, how is
Mhm.
that not a culture problem?
right.
Okay, I want to ask you a question. Do
No,
you think
answer the question, Stanley.
I'm going to answer? Do you think white people in America are doing a better job of parenting?
That's not
I don't
answering the
know.
question.
I
No,
don't.
no, 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 no.
I don't
Are
know.
white people doing a better job than black people?
We're not
Because
talking
I don't think it's a color thing. I think bad parenting is literally raceless.
Oh, Stanley. So for this, it is racial.
Yeah,
Stanley,
notice.
Wait a
Stanley,
minute.
Stanley,
SJC
Stanley.
came
You are
in
Well, wait,
hot.
hold it.
you may you may
Dude,
be as
Uh,
picky as
so
Black
person can take.
baby Jesus
oh,
take
oh,
the
and
wheel.
you won't even believe my next question, but
Oh
it's
God. Answer the
I'm
question.
not I'm not being jokey.
You're
I
trolling. You're
No,
trolling.
actually I'm not.
Yes, you are, because you would have answered
No,
his
I'm
question.
not.
Well, then answer his
I
question
think
and
it's
get
a
off what
parenting
you just
problem.
said.
Is that
That's
the answer to the question?
no, and you need to get some water. Get some water, no more beer, and
The
get back to
question
Charles's
the
question.
question is ask the question, Charles.
Let's go.
My question is, if it's a parenting problem, right, and majority of the parents are having these same issues, they're not
Oh,
parenting
that's easy.
properly, right? How is that not a culture problem? Because culture is how people live, how a community live.
Okay, got it. Now, is it a black culture problem? Because that's SKC's argument.
You are asking me a question. I am asking you. I asked you a
No,
question.
I
So tell
don't
me.
think it is a black culture problem. It is a culture problem, but not a black culture problem.
Can you put up the last comment, Charles? The ugly comment? Because Stanley's not getting it. Stanley's stuck in the bubble.
Stanley may
Like
not
the
be
old
getting it
school
because
program where
Stanley
only
doesn't want to get it.
catch up and they were just left behind. We're all gonna have to wave to Stanley. Come on, Stanley. Like, stop this. If our parents, how was your parents and were you raised? I could tell you that the culture means everything. Like, it's everything. It's like cornbread and greens and baked chicken, fried chicken on a Sunday type of shit. Like, come on, what are we doing, Stanley?
All
I
right.
don't think it's a black
Like, we're
culture
talking
problem. I
about our
think
culture. How did
I've
children
made
are
this
not
in
sitting down? Wait a
OVA.
minute, Stanley. Wait a minute. The children are not sitting down at dinner time. They're not going to wash their hands. They're not setting the table. None of that's
I
happening.
don't think that's necessary. My
It was
son doesn't set the
important for you
table.
to sit down with your family and eat dinner. What are you talking about, Stanley? That was life. What about going outside,
It's
having a certain
not life.
time and play with the neighborhood children and know who
Yes,
your neighbor was?
that's how I grew
This
up.
is what we're talking about. This is gone, Stanley. Now the little
Right, but
bopping
it's
around, and
not.
the 13-year-old looks like a 21-year-old, and they're confused, and the
Yes,
men are running behind
Empress,
the bushes,
Empress.
not fighting. They're not having jobs. Nobody has to
Got
work.
it. Got it.
Okay, so let's go. Let's
I don't think it is a black culture problem. SKC, it
culture.
is
Yes,
not a black culture problem.
yes, and yes. No, Stanley,
But
stop it.
Stanley,
Well, wait,
Stanley,
I answered the
Stanley,
question. Now you're gonna fuss, Empress?
Stanley. You remember a conversation we had 2 days ago, right?
Hmm.
Where I asked you, um, where you said that racism is a white people problem, and I said,
Yes, it is.
interesting. And part of the reason
No,
why
no,
you
no,
said,
no, no. Whoa. It
wait,
is a white people problem
let
to
me
solve.
let me finish.
No, you
What?
Let
still
me
you
finish,
finish the
Stanley.
argument.
I'm the one asking the questions. Okay, it's a white people problem to solve. And part of the reason why you
Yes,
said that is because white people are a majority in America, right? And
yes,
then I asked you, what about Baltimore? Baltimore is a predominantly black city. So
yes.
the problems in Baltimore, whose
Is
fault is it?
racism the problem in Baltimore?
Oh, good Lord,
Oh,
Stanley, please
Stanley,
listen
let
to
him
me.
No,
finish it.
honestly,
But let him
you're
finish.
talking two different problems.
No, you don't even know what he's talking if he can't
Oh,
even
I
finish
do.
talking. No, because you're not listening. We have to be able to hear what he's saying. Listen, you don't even allow it. You just start shooting. Allow it, bro. Let him talk. Respect for real. Like we can't even understand. There's two other people on the panel, bro.
Got it.
So you said it's a white people problem to solve, and then for Baltimore, you said it's a black people problem. I asked you,
Yeah.
I literally forced you to say that because
No,
you
you
know
didn't
because
force
no,
me.
yes, you already made a you made you already set the tone, right? You set the template of because white people are in a majority in America, it's a white people problem to solve. So I
Yes.
told you to, if you find yourself in a predominantly black city and there are problems, whose problem is it? Initially, you did not want to say that, but then you went on to say it's a
No,
black
that's
people
not true.
problem to solve. Now, in this county, in this PG county as it is, right, a predominantly black county, right? Whose
Hmm.
problem is it to solve? The problems that this lady outlined with
Right.
crime, with
Okay.
whose problem is
Whose
it?
problem
That's a
is it?
predominantly black
Okay.
county.
Let
Pause.
let let
Land
me
the
know when I can answer
whose
because I'll
problem?
go to PG County. Is PG County a majority black
Whose
county?
Yes, I think it's in
Please,
either the
please cite
high.
me the stats, or do I need to look it up?
well, let's
Oh
go.
no, I'll look it up for you right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Going back to Baltimore, no, Charles, you did not have to force me. The majority population in a city or a country or a state own the problem. I also asked you if people who are not black have the solution. Why aren't they winning elections? But that's kind of a side argument.
Why aren't they winning elections? Like they're going to be
PG
seated for.
County's the one. I can look it up myself, SKC.
Well, he is. So calm down.
Well, I'm not uncalm.
Yeah, you're doing too much.
You are gonna fuss,
Stanley,
aren't you?
listen, I know how to deal with you, Stanley. And you
Yes,
already
you
know
do.
this. We're talking to the intoxicated Stanley. It is
So
just so
PG County
cold.
is
So
60% black, just as America
there it
is
is.
like
All
60%
60%.
black.
right. Well, then I've lost my argument.
Answer the question though. No, the question was if 60% black, you're saying you need to know what color it is. It's majority black. Who's supposed to deal with the problem, Stanley? Please answer the question.
60% of the population.
Yes, dear. Answer
And
the
I did not think, I'm assuming that young lady was the mayor.
So why are black people doing a piss poor job in that PG County, right? They have the power, they have
Oh,
the.
you won't like my answer. I just think they're doing a piss poor job. Black people can be as piss poor in their performance as white people.
Yeah,
Or will you disagree with that too?
I don't, I don't. So, Brad,
$60.2.
it's good, so good to see you again, Brad.
Hey,
I
Brad.
really genuinely have missed you. I was like, where? has Brad gone to? Good to have you back.
He
I
got
hope
tired of me.
I hope you come back fully. I really, really did miss you. So I think this would be a good place to draw this conversation to a close. We've done 2 hours. I did not expect to do 2 hours. I was thinking of doing
Oh,
1 hour. So conversation got interesting, and we've done 2 hours. Stanley, Empress, thank you for coming, and I like your thoughts, and I'd love to see you around more. We have a Discord, and you can join the Discord. We have good conversations there and very interesting insults. Stanley, Ogie, and Dean Almighty a have a way with words, right? SKC, thanks for coming. So
Thank
maybe
you for having me.
we'll just a few words for the topic of the conversation today. What are your closing thoughts? Stanley, you go first. Empress, then SKC, then we're done.
no, I thanks for joining, Janet. I had no clue you're gonna be here.
This is
You
not about
surprised me and very pleasantly.
yeah, no, we'll have a conversation later.
All right.
Thank you for having me, and I definitely on the topic believe that you should have more, Charles. I engage not just because I know Stanley, but the fact that this is a convo to really have with people. And hello to your chat and your family and your community, and be happy to come over more. And nice meeting you, SKC, and cheers to everyone. Thank you for having me, Charles.
Yeah, thanks, Empress.
Yeah, yeah. I
SKC.
thought it was a interesting conversation, Charles. I would be really interested to see um how you would react to a conversation with someone like Bernard Riley on this red pill, fresh and fit type of thing. Because I think that um, he probably would have some different views about it, and I mean he's pretty even kill, and he won't go off on you or anything like that of that nature. So
Well,
if you're ever up
I
for
would
that,
only
let me know.
say, uh,
I am. I am. I'm always up for talking.
I wanna hear the dude.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I'll tell you what, on in the Discord I'll send you um, his information so that maybe you two can get together. He has a pretty large channel. It's about 32,000
Put his
strong. So
put his
yeah, I'm
YouTube
thinking the
channel
same
up
thing.
there.
Free Zone.
Put
He
it in the
says that
private chat.
Charles and Stanley on Bernard would be fire. Yeah, I think so as well. I really do.
No, I would be shut up because apparently.
You're fine, Stanley. Just not
No,
all.
I'm
Can you put it
kidding.
in the private chat though? The link.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll do that now.
Thank you.
Let me shut up and I'll do
Yeah,
that.
no, Stanley just drinks a little bit too much, but he's a great debater. He's a good man. He's a member in Wonderland, so know that I'm a fan to him.
All my secrets are getting aired.
Yeah, I'm in love with Stanley. I chase him around YouTube. Is that one better?
Yeah, there you go. It's in the back, and
Thank you
I
very
don't know.
much.
I'll reach out to Bernard. I've done some work with him, so I'll reach out to him and see if that would be something he'll be interested in hearing from some
yeah,
different voices on that matter.
that's cool. I'd really appreciate that. So, guys, that would be all for this stream. Thank you very much, and I will catch you in another live stream. It's bye for
Yes.
now. Bye.
Bye for now.